Hi. What I want to talk to you about today is the power of storytelling in business. Now, you might be thinking, what are you on about, Carol? Business is not about storytelling. But actually, do you know, it is. Think about when we're a kid. Is it more memorable for our parents to say to us, you shouldn't talk to strangers? Or is it more memorable when they talk about the story of Little Red Riding Hood, for example? And you might be thinking, well, how do I get that into business? And does it really work in business? Well, yes, it does. And it works for two reasons. First of all, as human beings, we are tuned in to stories. We love stories. All films are a good story. All books are a good story. A lot of news pieces are a fabrication, but they're a good story. So stories are very important. And the other reason, other than being memorable, the reason why they're important is because they connect you with your audience. Because you see, when you're telling a story, then you can put people in that picture with you. So, for example, I had my launch of my Leading Women in Business New Style networking events last night. I could tell you what time it was on, the venue, who came, and the agenda. And that might be mildly interesting, or it might not. But if I said to you, if you'd have been with me last night at 4:30, we'd have been on the fourth floor of the Auriga building in Manchester. Now, I don't know if you've been to the Auriga building, but it's absolutely beautiful office space. And on the fourth floor, they have a wonderful, what I'd call a members area, which has got a bar. It's got a really posh thing where you can press it and out comes ambient water, cold still water, or cold sparkling water. Fabulous. And if you'd have been there then, you'd have seen the rooftop terrace, unfortunately covered in water because it was raining all afternoon. By the end of the event, the sun had come out and it was beautiful out there. But you would also have seen the amazing canapes and catering by Jasper's Catering. You know, little beautiful little bruschettas with different things on, skewers, halloumi skewers, chicken skewers, lots of tiny, tiny little bite-sized wraps. Really, truly beautiful catering with strawberries and cream, of course. You'd have maybe had a glass of Prosecco, supplied by Springfield Wines, or maybe a glass of white or red, or some water out of the funky tap thing. And you'd have seen a load of women buzzing around, talking to each other, meeting each other for the first time in many cases, having fun, and looking at the beautiful handbags that one of our members actually brought along to show people as well. And you'd have listened to an amazing story by a lady called Rosalind Bell, who I have had the privilege to coach at the Public Speaking Academy that I'm part of, as you may know. Rosalind was in the finals for the Speaker of the Quarter award last quarter. I also had in my pod the winning finalist, Jan. But Rosalind's story is very powerful and it's all about seeing life as a gift and each day as a gift. And the women last night, if you'd have been there with us, you'd have been as moved as we were by her story. Now that is something that people will remember for a long time. If she'd have just stood up with a PowerPoint and told us all the facts and figures about all the businesses that she's owned and how she's had various challenges to overcome, we probably still would have been empathic with her, but it wouldn't have been anywhere near as memorable. So what I'm saying is, when you go to a networking event, when you have a board presentation, when you're speaking from stage, as I do a lot of the time, for an hour and a half, you have to tell stories because stories connect you with your audience. And people, as we know, do business with people that they know, like, and trust. And if you are open with your audience and you share your experiences as you would with a friend, well, guess what? You're trusting them, aren't you? And they will trust you back. And that's a very important part of storytelling. The other is just to, like I say, just to have people remember, because sometimes when you're doing a presentation, the tendency is to have lots and lots and lots of information, and that I understand where that comes from. I used to do my presentations that way. It comes from a place of wanting to serve. It comes from a place of wanting to educate, of wanting to share all the knowledge that you have with your audience. And you know, that's great, but they will remember 10% of what you say. 10%. So you need to identify what is the 10% you want them to remember. What is the important point that you're trying to get across? Because you can give them lots and lots of facts and figures. And I used to do an amazing workshop called More Than a Gut Feeling, which I still run. The way I used to run it, I used to give my entire system, my entire recruitment process system in like a day, or sometimes even condense it into half a day. Can you imagine? 20 years experience condensed into half a day. It was too much. People would come up at the end and go, oh my God, that information was amazing. I never knew there was so much to doing recruitment properly. But did they go away and implement it? No. It was way too much information in way too short a space of time. So now when I do a keynote for an hour and a half, I might tell people 1 or 2 things out of my 27-point system, because then they'll remember those and they'll be able to go away and implement those. So part of public speaking is storytelling. There are a lot of other parts of public speaking, but the one thing I want you to think about is how can you tell a story when you are illustrating your point or when you're beginning your keynote. How can you bring stories into what you're doing? Because that's a lot more interesting for the audience. It's a lot more interesting for you also. You don't have to remember a load of facts and figures on a PowerPoint. How can you bring stories in to your presentations at all levels to connect better with your audience? If you're a lady, a woman, a girl, or anything else, and you want to come along to our Women's Business Networking event, please let me know. The next one is, I believe, Wednesday the 27th of July, still at the Auriga building, our wonderful sponsors for last night. So there'll be information going out about those in the next few weeks. We don't ban men, by the way. It's just that men don't generally tend to come along. We discuss issues that are specific challenges for women and women in business and women starting up in business or women trying to move their career up the career path. And there are some challenges around that that women tend to face more than men, and that's not being discriminatory in any way. If you're a man, you're watching this, you want to come along, give me a buzz. We'd be delighted to have you. So, especially if you buy some handbags. So think about stories. Think about how you can build stories into your presentations. If you want to talk to me about public speaking coaching, then give me a call or email me on Carol with an E at carolfossey.com. But that's it for this week. Just remembering the power of stories when you're doing your presentations. See you soon.